The new information now is that you don't put open wounds in water, okay? But what I know is that everything runs in cycles and fads. And I know that in primitive areas where you don't have a lot of a lot of advanced technology, water is the simplest thing to use. And it cleanses an infected wound. Anytime you have an infection in a wound, it's not going to heal. It's true that water will traumatize the new little buds that are coming up, that are healing. So, they have Tegaderm and they have all these little fancy coverings that they put over it to keep it moist, okay? But that doesn't grow on trees. You can't find it everywhere. So you can do water to clean a wound, and when I got out of school for the first 15 years, that's what we did. But they're not doing that anymore. Okay.
Question. Talking about that, he cut his hand pretty bad on the saw, and when he went to the emergency room, that's what they had him do, is just cleanse it for about 2 minutes underwater. That's okay for initial...
Well, that's early. Yeah, it's early. I'm talking about an open wound that doesn't heal.
Okay.
And you'll see ulcers on people's legs, or you see sometimes they get a big cut, and they don't get to medical help for a number of hours, and so they'll leave it open to heal from the inside out. And I've seen a number of motorcycle accidents like that, or they have a huge abrasion, they'll fall off the back of the motorcycle and slide down the pavement. They come in with these big abrasions, okay? And so, that's too big an area just to cover, right? And so a lot of times they will whirlpool those occasionally to keep them clean. It's primarily cleanliness, keeping it clean. Disinfect the water, put something in it to, knock down the bacteria, and then clean. If sometimes you get this scar forming over it needs to be debrided off, and so you'll soak it, just take that stuff off. Yeah, does not feel good. Okay, I have covered the information I had, and so if you have more questions or comments, go ahead and shoot, and when we're done with that, we'll practice some of the hot and cold. And
how much, in the books, I see them making tents around people, and I see them really covering them up a lot. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering, how much and how long, and do we do this kind of cover?
It's like steam baths.
Mm-hmm.
That's a home steam bath, basically. And I was going to tell you, I forgot to. There are a number of steam baths available here in town. I know the YMCA has it in their men's center and their women's center. They have a steam bath, and that's very.
Oddfellows has it.
Oddfellows has it. I know over some of the dormitories have it in town. I know, Walwell College and Whitman College both have steam baths available to them. And 10 minutes is kind of the recommended amount of time in a complete steam bath. I wouldn't recommend more than that. You can certainly go less than that. And you should follow by cooling down. You don't want to keep your system that hot for a long period of time. There are huge advantages to steam baths when it comes to lungs. People can get thick mucus in their lungs. They can't cough it up. And there's nothing like inhaling steam, the mentholatum. I think the mentholatum dilates the bronchioles, and the steam thins it so you can cough it up. And that's very effective. I have not spent a lot of time, so if you have some numbers for me.
Well, we were always taught that you didn't let the patient chill.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and I'm trying to remember the criteria, you kept cold things on their head, and their feet were warm, and you had them wrapped up. And
good point. I forgot about that because it's been so long since I've done that type of stuff. So one of the ways that somebody was asking about how hot you can take the core temperature. You can take it up pretty hot if you keep the head cold. So you put a cold compress on the head. If you have somebody in a steam bath or like a Russian steam bath, those are the ultimate, because you lay down on this marble table and they run steam all over, but your head is out. Okay, so your head doesn't get all the heat. And you get the body pretty hot, keep putting ice on the head, and you can run in 15, 20 minutes in a steam bath like that. I'm trying to stick on the topic, but it's hard. We really go against fevers, don't we? Do you think there might be a purpose for a fever? Yeah, like fighting infection. And so when you're doing a steam bath, basically you're inducing a fever. You get a person who's really, really sick. They may not have enough strength left in their body to create a fever to fight whatever infection it is they have. So you can put them in a steam bath and bring their temperature up for them. And then obviously if their system's that weak, you don't really want them to cool down a lot. But it can be very invigorating if a person has been really debilitated. You do cool them down, but if you're going to cool them down, you've got to bring them back up to neutral temperature before you. And you've got to have a lot of blankets, and that is incredibly laborious, hard work to keep a person warm all the time. And you do the steam bath, you get them all wrapped up in blankets and get them back in the bed, get them, because they keep sweating into the blankets, so you have to keep changing the blankets and putting warm ones on and drying them off until their temperature normalizes, which can take 30 minutes and a lot of towels and a lot of blankets. So that tends to be more of a, an institution-based activity. Yes?
What about a sauna?
It's great for raising your body temperature.
And take a shower afterwards.
And taking a shower afterwards. I mean, if you're finished, I'm sure it's really good for you.
How long would you stay in?
Well, you stay in as long as you don't get your core temperature above 104. How's that? And the reason I say that, okay, I can give you a number, but if you're 70 years old versus 18 years old, the time's different. And if you're 4 years old, probably not a good idea at all, because they really haven't developed their ability to control body temperature very well. So,
It would be better to start with less and more.
pardon me again?
It would be better to start with less and more.
Yeah. Yeah, and see how your body relates to it. But if you keep your head cold, I think you can go in a sauna for up to 20 minutes. And of course, that again, different people run the saunas at different temperatures. And I've been in saunas with 200 degrees, and I wasn't spending 20 minutes in there.
At 138, 140.
Oh, you can stay in there 10 minutes probably. But if you really want to be precise about it, you go in with the thermometer in your mouth and check it. And if your temperature gets to 102, I would probably get out. Because when you get out and get in the cold water, you're going to spike your temperature even higher. You're probably going to pass out, which is a very common response. And so I would not recommend ever doing hot-cold contrast in those extreme measures by yourself. It's a good way to fall and hit your head on the concrete. Yeah.
Do you recommend drinking water anytime? Any of these?
All of them, actually. So last week we talked about massage, and we told some colorful stories about people who did not drink water associated with massage. You're doing basically the same thing with hot and cold contrast, or hot, as you are with massage. You're dilating blood vessels. You're getting blood out to tissues that probably haven't seen blood in a while. Okay? And you probably think I'm joking. I'm not. I'm serious. Okay? You have tissues that don't dilate those blood vessels very frequently. And when you do that, you're going to pick up a lot of metabolites and bring them back into the system. So absolutely you should drink water. And when you're doing the steam bath and the sauna, I think are the most important. When you're doing the hot and cold, those are short, pretty intense. I would hydrate before, I would hydrate after. But you're pretty busy doing your hot and cold. You're not going to be drinking a whole lot of water during. And have you ever drank a lot of water and run really hard and kind of throw up, right? And so you're going to get some interesting stomach responses when you're doing hot and cold contrast. So I wouldn't have your stomach extended with water during that time. Drink it before, stop maybe 20 minutes before, let your stomach empty and do your hot and cold, and then drink afterwards as you feel ready to. Yeah, good question.
Did you explain how it helps pain?
I'm trying to remember what you said.
Okay, not really. I mostly talked about inflammation. ice is probably one of the most effective pain controls you can have for musculoskeletal type pain. I don't really think it does much for visceral pain, but if you can get something cold, numb cold, it just doesn't hurt. And well, I can tell stories about that. If you go, let's say you do a 16-mile backpack trip, right? You're carrying a heavy pack, and it's one of those things you don't really intend to, but you start out and you keep seeing cool stuff, you keep going a little farther, and then you're 8 miles in and you have to pack out, right? So you come out and you know you've done way too much that day, and you are sore, you're getting sore, and you're just finishing the hike. So you know you'll have a difficult time walking the next day, okay? If you'll get into ice water and stay there until that part of the body, like your legs are numb, you'll have very little soreness the next day.
Same for riding horses too.
Um, you know, it depends if you're walking, cantering, or galloping. I don't recommend going numb on your back with ice unless you use an ice pack on it. I see it work a whole lot better in the legs than I do on the back. Get really sore?
Yes, you can't walk the next day.
If you do ice, it's like the best anti-inflammatory with no side effects to the liver that I know of. How's that? If you have muscle spasm, and we talked about muscle spasm last week, so I won't go into detail about what causes it, but it is pretty amazing that heat, gentle heat, for 20 minutes will do a lot to relax the muscle, dilate blood vessels into the area. Now, if you go ahead and slap ice right back onto it, it tends to tighten back up and have more pain again. So just doing heat to relax, like some people have jacuzzis. I prefer localized heat when you're dealing with pain. Because when you go into a jacuzzi, you're dilating blood vessels to the whole body, right? So if you're trying to heat up, let's say you have low back pain, you want to heat up that area. If you put heat to the whole body, you're not really getting a lot of blood into your low back. And so I'd say localized heat works the best. Other comments or questions? Yes?
You said too cold after like a lot of exercise and a lot of walking or whatever. Well, maybe we did a no-no, but we did a lot of climbing one time and then we went into our hot tub and we were not sore the next day, but was that heat a no-no?
Not really. I mean, if it works, how am I going to argue with it? It's kind of like when I went through school and they said a lot of bad things about chiropractors, but when someone goes to a chiropractor and gets, well, what am I going to say, right? I'm not going to say bad about it, all right? Because if it works, it works. It depends. If you're looking for muscle soreness, it might work for that. If you have like a tendonitis, it doesn't seem to work so well for that. The ice seems to work better.
When Mr. Kegley did his 60-mile walk run, he got in hot tub afterwards.
Did he?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That would not be my suggestion, because you tend to be kind of chronically inflamed when you do a long activity like that, and then you go into heat, and it's very easy to just plain get sick. It's just you push the body to heat exhaustion or heat overload of some type. So that would not be my suggestion.
What would you do?
Ice. Yeah, I would do ice up to the knees, ice up to the hips, something like that. And it's a shock, right? But no guts, no glory. It's funny, the things that oftentimes are the most effective are the ones that run the most risk of being damaging. Okay? So if you just do something really soothing, you're not going to have a strong response out of it. If you do something really intense, you're going to get a strong response out of it.
So ice for how long?
And ice more intense when heat.
I think ice, well, it depends on how, you can only go 108 degrees. You can't go that hot, but you can go really cold. You can go down to 32 degrees. And do that for, I'll say 33 degrees. And do that for 10 to 20 minutes. And you won't hurt a whole lot the next day. You won't feel anything the next day. You're numb. Yeah.
Well, occasionally I'll do intensive physical labor, and in the evening my muscles and my shoulders and so forth, they're really sore because of certain acids, I suppose.
Lactic acid,
Yeah.
metabolites, whatever they are.
And a hot bath, it just, I mean, takes practically the soreness away. But I'll finish it, I'll spend about 10 minutes in the hot water. And I'll finish it with a kind of a cold shower.
Yeah, so you're doing the shunting. You're drawing the blood into the area, and then you do the big flush, pushes the blood out of the area. Yeah, and that will work. So I think, back in the sanitariums, they made the hydrotherapy really complicated. They had all these ornate protocols. And it's interesting that when you're getting paid to do something, you will come up with more complicated things to make sure that you have a job, right? I really think hydrotherapy is pretty simple. Understand the basic physiology behind it, understand the precautions for it, and experiment with it on your body and see how your body responds. And I think it's about that simple. So we can make it as complicated as we want to. Like this treatment for depression, which is a lot of fun because we get to play with the levers a lot, but I think just a plain hot, cold contrast would do just about as much to treat a person. They used to wrap people in sheets and run hoses on them. I think the wrapping in sheets was so they couldn't move and get away. They claimed that, it was evenly dispersing water all over them, but I think a lot of times with the stuff, they were kind of making it up as they went.
I was in the era when they were using those wet sheet packs for psychotic patients, people that were getting hyperactive, and it was before they just started using the drugs about that time. But these people that were hyperactive, they would wrap them up in the wet sheet pack, and they'd go to sleep. Yeah, you're right, they were kind of pinned down.
Yeah.
But they were comfortable once they heated it up.
Yeah, when she says wrapping them up in sheets, if you look at the picture, they were like a papoose. They were wrapped up tight,
Yeah, they were.
very snug, and then hosed down with warm water in that, and it had quite an effect on me. And there again, that's something that was pretty labor intensive. You need several people to do it, and you need a good facility and that sort of thing. Yep.
Wouldn't just set the bath do the same?
It's tough to get a psychotic person into that. It's a lot easier to wrap them in a sheet. So that's something I haven't talked about, is something to just kind of tone down your mental activities. And they say a tepid bath will do that. I'm not sure what temperature a tepid bath is, but my guess is it's around 98 to 100 degrees. And for how long, you want to get out before you fall asleep.
What did you say it does? Tones down your what?
Tones down your mental activity. So if you're a person who's highly stressed and you're having difficulty going to sleep at night, they have a new word for that. They call it sleep hygiene. And we have a sleep, a world-renowned sleep authority in town, Dr. Simon, and he's doing a series of talks over at St. Mary's for the doctors on Thursdays at noon, I think it is. And he's really good. He has a whole system of things that you can do that goes along with this for preparing for sleep. And I think a warm, neutral shower or bath, either one, is a good way to wind down at the end of the day.
So it'd be better if you took a warm shower and just cool off just a little bit with the cold, but yet not too cold. And then you can go to sleep better if you're a little warm rather than cold.
End of a hot day, sure. End of a cold winter day, you'd probably make it a little warmer. Yeah. Let's talk about ice. It is so funny in physical therapy. There's the camp that only uses ice, right? It's not cool to use heat because real men use ice, right? And it's not therapeutic to use heat, right? Well, physiologically, if you use ice or heat, you get the same effect over an hour. Now, short term, you get a totally different effect, right? But an hour later, you have a very similar effect. So if I were to take and put ice on your leg, or if I put your foot in the ice-cold whirlpool bath and did it for 10 minutes, and it causes vasoconstriction, right? And so you shunt all the blood out of there, then you take the foot out, and the body goes, you know what? That foot is really cold. We better warm it up. So what's it do? It dilates the blood vessels, pushes a whole bunch of blood out there, and spikes the temperature up above normal, and then it will gradually come back down to normal. So did the ice cool you down? Absolutely. Temporarily. Long term, you came right back up to hot again. So if you go and take unless your body is debilitated, you can take a cold shower and your body's going to respond metabolically. You're going to increase the metabolism and you're going to be warm or warmer an hour later. That's your body's response. And that's when you increase metabolism like that, you're not as likely to go to sleep. Same thing if you get really, really hot, then your body sweats a lot and tries to find a way to cool down. That's very stimulating as well. So that's why kind of the neutral temperature brings the body, if you're too hot, brings you down to cool. If you're too cold, it brings you up to a neutral temperature so your body can relax. Well, I've said way more than I know on that. Yeah?
My dad used to say, don't drink ice water. It doesn't cool you down, it warms you up, because you don't have to warm it up.
There you go. You know, there's...
It sounds like what you're saying.
Yeah, well... Cool. Let's just take it physiologically, okay? Let's just talk about the stomach. You know, you have a bunch of enzymes and digestive enzymes in the stomach that work optimally at a certain temperature, which happens to be around 98. Is that right? Yeah, okay. So if you pour ice water in there, you're doing significant things to the stomach. So you can cool a person down systemically by drinking ice water, if they drink enough of it fast enough, right? You can heat them up systemically if you drink enough hot water fast enough. If you drink the hot water, you're going to sweat and cool down. If you drink the cold water, it's probably going to stimulate your metabolism a little bit to warm up the body. And that's in a healthy person. In a debilitated person, you just make them cold and really grumpy. Okay? Especially on a cold day. It's not effective at all. I wouldn't recommend it. But, you know, cold water on a hot day, I think, cools you down. Hot water on a cold day, I think, warms you up. And yes, your body will play with that and fight with it a little bit. Okay, I'm done speaking, so why don't we take a break? Did you need to say something before we do that?
This is really an experience. This past week, I woke up in the night with sinus pain. And so, you know, I go out to the kitchen and I'm thinking, there's something I can do. So I got 2 pans, one with ice water, one with warm water, stuck my feet in them. Well, that didn't do much. So then I thought, well, my head feels hot, so I put a little coal on my head. That felt good for a few minutes. Then I finally figured out warm cloth on my head and my feet in warm water. That just felt really good. But you know, when you don't feel very well, you know you're going to do something, so you keep
trying, keep experimenting, and that's the great thing about hydrotherapy. You don't need a license to experiment with it; just go for it. And you know, the same thing we talked about steam being good for the lungs. Steam is also good for the sinuses. It can thin out the mucuses so you drain a little more easily. If you can get it up there. If you're really plugged up, it's kind of tough. Okay, why don't we take like about a 5-minute break to give us a chance to set up some of these hot and cold, and we'll do some on the tables for hands, we'll do some for feet, and then I'm going to turn on the whirlpool.